We live in a world of ideas. Some are comforting, promising a world of justice and morality. Others are unsettling. They hold up a mirror to the darker parts of our nature. Tonight, we shatter the glass and speak to the man behind one of history's most dangerous mirrors. A Florentine diplomat whose name became a synonym for ruthless cunning. Niccolò Machiavelli.
You call my name across centuries. You seek answers, but are you prepared for them? The truth of power is not found in sermons or scholarly debate. It is forged in the fire of experience, in the cold calculus of survival. It is not for the faint of heart.
Your experience gave us The Prince, a book written to a ruler yet read by millions. It's been called a masterpiece of political science by some and a handbook for tyrants by others. Let's start with its most enduring dilemma. Is it better for a ruler to be loved or to be feared?
A prince ought to desire to be considered merciful and not cruel. Nevertheless, he must take care not to mismanage this mercy. In an ideal world, one should be both loved and feared. But since it is difficult to unite them in one person, it is much safer to be feared than to be loved if one of the two has to be dispensed with.
Safer. It's a cold word. Why is fear a safer foundation for power than love?
Because love is held by a chain of obligation, and since men are wicked, they will break this chain whenever their own interests are at stake. Love is fickle. It depends on the gratitude of others, which is a resource you cannot control.
And fear?
Fear is held by a dread of punishment which never fails. The fear of consequences is a currency that is always honored. A man might betray a leader he loves for a greater profit, but he will hesitate to betray a leader he fears, because the price is his own security, perhaps his own life.
But surely a ruler who only inspires fear is a tyrant, and tyrants are overthrown. Hatred is a powerful motivator.
You are correct. This is a crucial distinction. A prince should inspire fear in such a way that, if he does not win love, he avoids hatred. This is entirely possible. He can be feared without being hated.
And how does he achieve that?
He must abstain from the property of his citizens and subjects and from their women. And if he must take someone's life, he must do it when there is suitable justification and manifest cause. But above all, he must keep his hands off the property of others, because a man will more quickly forget the death of his father than the loss of his patrimony.
Your view of human nature is bleak. You seem convinced that people are fundamentally selfish, untrustworthy.
I describe men as they are, not as they should be. This is the cornerstone of effective rule, to see the world without illusion, to understand that men are ungrateful, fickle, pretenders, and dissemblers, avoiders of danger, and eager for gain. As long as you succeed, they are yours entirely. They will offer you their blood, property, life, and children when the need is distant. But when it approaches, they turn against you.
So, if a ruler can't build his power on loyalty, where does he turn? To sheer force?
Force is one half of the equation, but force alone is brutish and predictable. A prince must learn from two masters. He must learn the ways of the beast, specifically the lion and the fox.
The lion and the fox. A famous metaphor. Explain it.
The lion cannot defend himself against snares. The fox cannot defend himself against wolves. Therefore, it is necessary to be a fox to discover the snares, and a lion to terrify the wolves. Those who rely simply on the lion do not understand what they are about.
So the lion represents strength, the power to crush your enemies.
Yes, to project power to make it clear that crossing you has consequences. It is the might of the army, the finality of the executioner's axe. It deters open rebellion.
And the fox?
The fox is cunning. It represents the ability to see the hidden trap, to understand the subtle motivations of others, to use deception and craftiness. The world of politics is filled with snares laid by rivals. A lion will walk right into them. A fox will see the snare, avoid it, and perhaps even use it against the one who set it.
This sounds like you are advocating for a ruler to be dishonest, to break his promises.
Let me be precise. A prudent lord cannot, nor ought he to, keep faith when such observance may be turned against him, and when the reasons that caused him to pledge it exist no longer. If men were all good, this precept would not be good. But because they are bad, and will not keep faith with you, you too are not bound to observe it with them.
But what of honor, integrity? Do these values have no place in your world?
They have a place, a very important place, in one's public image. A prince must be a great pretender and dissembler. Men are so simple and so subject to present necessities that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived.
So it's not about being virtuous, but appearing virtuous.
Precisely. It is not necessary for a prince to have all the good qualities I have enumerated, but it is very necessary to appear to have them, to appear merciful, faithful, humane, sincere, and religious, and to be so, but to have a mind so framed that should you need not to be so, you may be able to and know how to change to the opposite.
This brings us to the most infamous idea attributed to you. The end justifies the means. Is that a fair summary of your philosophy? That any evil can be committed in the name of a good outcome?
It is a crude summary, but it points toward a difficult truth. In the actions of all men, and especially of princes, where there is no tribunal to which to appeal, one must consider the final result. If a prince succeeds in conquering and maintaining his state, his means will always be judged honorable and be praised by everybody. The vulgar are always taken by appearances and by the outcome of an event. And in the world, there is no one but the vulgar.
But what if the means are monstrous? What if they involve great cruelty?
We must distinguish between cruelty well used and cruelty abused.
I have to ask, how can cruelty ever be well used?
Well-used cruelties are those that are applied at one blow, out of the necessity to secure one's position, and are not afterward persisted in, but are converted into as great a benefit for the subjects as possible. A single swift act of calculated violence that secures a state and prevents a long, drawn-out civil war is in its outcome more merciful than the weak prince who, through his desire to appear merciful, allows his state to descend into chaos, murder, and pillage. That prolonged chaos harms the entire community. The prince's executions harm only individuals.
You place the security of the state above everything, above morality, religion, and the rights of the individual.
Because without the state, none of those things can exist. They are luxuries afforded by order. Without a strong ruler to impose order, there is only anarchy, the war of every man against every man. The highest duty, and therefore the highest morality, of a prince is to ensure the survival and prosperity of the state. He who tries to be a good man in all circumstances will surely be ruined among so many who are not good.
This world you describe, it's a terrifying place, a game of constant vigilance, of paranoia, where trust is a fatal flaw and virtue is a costume.
I am a physician of the state. I diagnose the illness. Do not blame me for the disease. I did not create the ambition, greed, and treachery in the human heart. I merely observed it and wrote down the most effective remedies for the leader who must navigate it.
But your remedies seem to poison the soul. They leave no room for idealism, for hope, for a better world.
Hope is not a strategy. Many have imagined republics and principalities that have never existed. But there is such a great distance between how one lives and how one ought to live, that he who rejects what is done for what ought to be done will learn the way to his downfall rather than to his preservation. A prince must have his feet planted on the muddy ground of reality, even if his head is in the clouds of aspiration.
So, in the end, are we simply pawns of fortune, blown about by circumstance?
Not entirely. Fortune is a violent river that, when it is enraged, floods the plains and destroys everything. But when times are quiet, it is possible for men to make provisions with dikes and dams, so that when the river rises, it may be channeled. Virtue, or skill, is the dam we build against the river of fortune.
So we can shape our destiny.
We can try. But fortune is also a woman. And it is better to be audacious than cautious, because fortune is a friend of the young, who are less cautious, more ferocious, and command her with more audacity. But never believe you can fully tame her. The river can always overflow its banks. The dam can always break.
Listening to you, it feels as though the path to power is an utterly lonely one. Trust no one, deceive when necessary, be prepared for the worst at all times. Is that the true price of power?
It is the price of seeing things as they are. I told you, my truth is not a comfort. I gave the world a glimpse of the machinery of power, stripped of its holy cloaks and moral justifications. Now look around you, in your own time. Look at your politics, your corporations, your global stage. Do you see the saints you wish were there? Or do you see lions and foxes, locked in an eternal struggle?
That's a question we almost fear to answer.
The most important questions are always the ones we fear, because the prince is not just a figure in a book, it is the ambition that burns inside anyone who desires to impose their will upon the world. The choice you face is never between perfect good and absolute evil. That is a child's story. The real choice is between what is effective and what leads to your ruin. The choice is always yours.
He gave us a mirror, not a manual, and the reflection can be terrifying. Is the prince a monster to be feared, or a pragmatist to be understood? And the most unsettling question of all, when we look into that mirror, who or what looks back at us? If you want to continue exploring the minds that shaped our world, subscribe now and never stop questioning.